What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to yet another episode of DripMyWhip. Now this video is a little bit more of an informational one than of an action one, so if you're looking for an action video, go ahead and exit out of this and check out some of my other playlists. Now if you guys are here for why I think you're here, which is you're stuck on a swap, or you're getting ready to do one yourself, or you just want to know what this whole process entails, then you come to the right place. You guys know I just finished my revup to DE swap in my 05 G35, and I did run into some complications along the way. Now there's a handful of things that I was expecting and then also wasn't expecting during this swap that actually hung me up a few times, and I'm gonna go over that with y'all today. And if you guys are interested in seeing the swap itself, this was a 2-video process. I'll throw them up in the corner right there because it was awesome. I really enjoyed putting this motor in the car, and I think it came out fantastic. Now, like I just mentioned, this is a 2005 Infiniti G35 Coupe manual transmission from the factory. This car was not manual swapped. I had a few questions about that on Instagram. No, I did not manual swap the car. It was already a manual transmission. Now, I did also change the transmission though. Now, when I picked up the car a few months ago, it did have a knocking rev-up engine, which I'll explain in a minute. Since then, we've taken the engine out and we've replaced it with a 2003 350Z engine, which technically is the same motor, but it's also very different at the same time. This engine is what you would call a DE. There's 3 different variants of the VQ platform for this car. You have the DE, the rev-up, and the HR. Now, out of all those engines, the HR is definitely the best, which I actually have an HR over here in the corner. I'll show you in a minute to show you the differences. But the most common swap for these cars is the rev-up to DE swap. The reason why is the rev-up engine was only made for 2 years and is considerably more expensive to find and replace. Now, the rev-up was more desirable of an engine over the DE because it actually came with some upgrades like exhaust variable valve timing, which increased the horsepower. But that being said, it also makes it a more valuable engine, which makes it more expensive to find in a junkyard. Now, the rev-up suffers the same problem the DE suffered, which was an oil pump issue that caused it to throw its bearings at high redline. And that's why you guys hear a lot of Infiniti and Nissan 350Z and G35s sound like this. So I keep talking about all these differences, but let's start with how you can identify each motor. They actually are able to be visually identified just by looking at them what type of motor they are. Now, like I've already said, this is a DE motor. This motor was made from 03 to 04. The way to tell that is, one, you have a single intake. You do not have dual intakes. The rev-up and the DE have a single intake plenum. If you see this plenum on the motor, this is a DE or a rev-up. The next factor itself is the way the front timing cover looks. Now, you can't see here, so I'm gonna throw up a clip of a different one, but as you can see here, we have a rev-up engine sitting. Now, the way you can tell this is a rev-up motor, even out of the car, is just by the way the front timing cover looks. Now, just like I showed you how the DE front cover looks, as you can see, the front cover here is different. You have your variable valve timing for the intake, and you have one for the exhaust. This front piece right here is a dead giveaway that this is a rev-up engine. You can also see here that we have front cam timing sensors. Just like we do in the back, we have a sensor. We have a cam sensor for the intake and a cam sensor for the exhaust. This is not the case for the DE, where you only have a cam sensor for the intakes and not the exhaust. So on your DE motor, like the one we have sitting here, since there's better lighting and the motor is sitting out of the car, you can see that we don't have exhaust cam timing on the back of this motor. We don't on the front either. We only have timing for the intake side. And the same goes for the front of the engine here. As you can see, we don't have anything here from where the rev-up motor had the 2 circles. This one only has 1. There is no exhaust cam timing. There's no sensors or anything of the sort. Now, I actually came in luck today. I don't usually have this car sitting in my driveway, but my good friend came over, and I'll drop his Instagram right here, and he just happens to have a 2015 370Z Sport with the 3.7 liter HR. Now, even though this is the newer version of the car, this is a 370, not a 350, the engine platform was still the same. They just slightly increased the size. You can tell this is an HR engine because of the dual intake setup. No DE or rev-up had dual intakes. So if you see an intake on this side and on this side, you're looking at an HR. So that leads me to my next explanation, is if we're missing some timing sensors, doesn't that mean the car isn't gonna run right? And you are correct, the car is gonna have issues, because if you actually look closely at this DE build, I didn't change the engine harness. This is the revup 2005 harness on the 2003 motor. The only thing I did is during the swap process, I cut away the front exhaust cam timing sensors and left the rear ones just in the back. So we're moving into the back of the motor, where I'm gonna pull up a few things to show y'all. Is, as you can look closely here, we have some sensors that are not plugged in. The reason they're not plugged in is because this motor doesn't have the sensors at all. This is one of your sensors for your exhaust cam timing. So what does not having exhaust cam timing sensors mean? Just like any other car, this car uses sensors to determine where the engine is at in its rotation. It uses that based on crankshaft timing and camshaft timing. Now, even though this car is currently seeing the intake cam timing sensors, it's not seeing the exhaust because, like I said, they're not mounted up. So with it not being mounted up, it doesn't know where the engine is. So even though the engine is going to be allowed to run, it's going to be running in what they call a limp mode. Essentially, this car being stuck in limp mode just means it can move just enough to get onto a flatbed trailer. That's pretty much it. It can move here around the house, but it can't move on the street at all. It has no throttle response. It's very dangerous. You can't drive it on the road like that. So there has to be a fix for that, right? Well, there is. One of the most common fixes that people do is they change the car's main computer. So this ECU I have in my hands is the ECU for this car, meaning it's a 2005 revup ECU. So this computer is going to give us the limp mode issue that the car is experiencing now. So this is the ECU to my 2003 350Z. This ECU is a DE ECU. This is the right one. This is the one we need for that motor. But there's one issue you're going to run into when you change out your car's main computer. And side note, we really parted out this car way more than I thought we were going to do, and this thing has turned into a complete shell with some Brimbos on it that I wanted to take off, but we're going to leave on there. And we're in the middle of a 2J build with it. If you guys haven't followed the 2J build yet, definitely check it out. I'll throw a video right here. This 2JZ swap on this 350Z is going to be fantastic. That was the whole reason we parted the car out and brought it over to the G35. It's because we don't need any of that stuff anymore. So this should be coming along real good. This next video should be dropping on it very soon. So there's one main thing to remember when you change out your car's main computer, is the computer itself is tied to the key system. So by taking the ECU to the 350Z, which is a DE ECU, you can just toss it in a car. Like I said, it is the exact same shape and size. This ECU from the 350Z fits right on to where your ECU goes in the G35. They both are in the same place in the car under the passenger side dash. It's very hard to get down here, but as you can see, you're looking at the ECU underneath, and all you got to do to get access to it, you can really pull it out just like that. And then there is your main plug for the ECU. And it fits right on. But see, without the car's computer that belonged to it, your immobilizer system isn't going to be able to recognize your key. And without it being able to recognize the key, you're going to be left with this. Also, the immobilizer light will remain illuminated due to the key not being able to be detected by the ECU. So I actually installed the 350Z's ECU up there, so it's already in the car. This is the revup ECU. The reason that it's plugged in is so that way I can move the car around the house, because with that ECU plugged in, the car starts. And why does it start with the correct ECU? Well, like I've already said, your car has an immobilizer system that it is looking for the correct key. So this key and that ECU go together. So car starts right up. So with the right ECU, that's all you need to get this thing started. So to successfully get the car out of limp mode, you've got to have the ECU flashed. You have to have the NATS part of the ECU flashed off. Now, NATS stands for Nissan Anti-Theft System. It's built into the ECU and is part of the immobilizer for your key. If you want to switch your ECU to a DE ECU so that way this car can get out of limp mode, you've got to make it forget the key that was associated with it. Now there's a few companies that I've seen online that say that they can handle this. All you need to do is take out your ECU, much like I did, and have the ECU mailed out to them, where they flash the NATS system off and they send it back to you. Prices I've seen ranging about $250 to $400 to do this. There's a couple of local tuners that have told me that they can do it as well from their dyno. They just plug in their laptop and they can handle it as well. If you guys know anyone who can handle that, definitely let me know, because I'm actually looking to get mine done right now. I have not even done mine yet. And that's why you haven't seen any content with the car. I've just been really busy with doing stuff with the 2J build and taking care of this as well. Wanted to film a video on how to exactly handle this problem, because the revup engine and the DE motor are the exact same shape and size, and they will actually bolt up to the same spots. So this motor, this 2003 engine, sat right in there like it was nothing wrong. They bolted up the same, their engine mounts are the same, the transmissions are the same. Everything plugs in where it needs to be. You're just missing a couple of extra plugs, which are actually very crucial to the engine running properly. This car has been so much fun to build, and now I'm really just ready to get it out on the road and take some rips at it, send it to the track, just have a lot of fun with this car, and I'm getting very anxious. But the build itself came out really good. I mean, I'm still running 2 different sets of wheels on this car, just because I'm ordered a set of tires for all the white wheels. This car usually has all white wheels. These are actually my track edition wheels from my 350Z, and my track wheels are beautiful. I love these. They usually belong on the Z, but I put them over here now just to have the car. Why is that bird singing right now? But yeah, I put them on the car just so it could roll around a little bit. Obviously the Z doesn't need to roll around at all, but I will be getting some very special wheels for that coming soon as well. From the welded rear end install we did, to the new engine and transmission, to the engine bay itself, to the white wheels that we put on, this thing is coming along really nicely, and I'm excited to keep pushing on the build of this car. It's really time to start focusing on visuals. Let me know in the comments what y'all want to see next done to the car. You want us to wrap it? I think we should throw on some new headlights. And really guys, that's pretty much everything y'all need to know on how to correctly take your rev-up engine out of your 350Z or G35 and put in a 2003 to 2004 DE motor. And I hope that helped for a lot of you who might be getting ready to do that swap yourselves, because it is a pretty common swap. These motors get changed all the time, and they can be configured around a bunch of different ways. And this one's alive and it's not knocking. We just got to get a couple more things done to it, which I'm going to film on the next video about this car. So until then, I will see y'all on the next episode of DripMyWhip. Peace.